The healthcare sector is arguably one of the most important and complex sectors in the U.S. economy. As shown by Statista, healthcare expenditures account for 19.7% of gross domestic product in 2020. This sector includes companies that provide medical services, manufacture drugs and medical equipment, provide medical insurance, or facilitate the provision of healthcare to patients. Today we're looking at the sub-industries of the healthcare sector and how each healthcare industry performs differently through a recession, in order to determine whether the healthcare sector as a whole is still considered to be recession-proof. Stick around for the end of the video where we'll take a look at industry leaders in the two top-performing healthcare sub-industries currently. Although the current life expectancy at birth in the United States is 78.9 years old, according to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, or OECD, which is below the average of 80 compared to other developed nations. What's so amazing about that is that the United States spends much more than any other country per capita due to the post-World War II baby boom generation being coupled with average increasing age of the population. We are continuing to see an increased number of cases of cognitive decline for longer periods of time, allowing demand in the healthcare sector to increase. I bring this up because it truly does benefit each of the overarching sub-industries within the healthcare sector: drugs, companies which produce medical equipment, managed healthcare companies, which we'll talk about later, and healthcare facilities such as hospitals, nursing homes. Drug companies can be further broken down into major pharmaceutical companies and producers of generic drugs. Furthermore, biotechnology firms are included as they research and develop new drugs, devices, and treatment methods. Major pharmaceutical companies mainly focus on the manufacturing and marketing of already existing drugs. These companies only slightly concern themselves with research and development, as they need to continue to create a diversified pipeline of new drugs, but also place a large importance on generating revenue year over year. This is a huge benefit because it allows major pharmaceutical companies to be much less volatile than their other healthcare peers. Additionally, you can often find some nice dividends within these companies as well, due to their strong free cash flow, which we'll talk more about later. The generic drug industry is rife with competition, as these drugs are identical to their name brand counterparts, but are no longer protected under a patent, which generally lasts 20 years from the date of submission. Because any company can now start producing the drug, the supply within the market increases. Furthermore, drug companies must follow FDA regulations when producing the drugs, so the only competitive advantage to be gained is by reducing the price. You'll have to watch out for biotech companies because they're often high risk, high reward, and many of them are smaller companies which do not have dependable streams of revenue yet. This occurs because the industry functions on the expectation the drug company can produce a product that will gain regulatory approval. Again, this is a super risky play, but investing in a biopharmaceutical company, while they have incredibly low valuations, while they are acquiring FDA approvals, can lead to massive returns. With that being said, the volatility of these companies is important to note, as FDA decisions in patent cases can spark double-digit swings in share price, up or down. In addition to companies which produce drugs in the healthcare sector, medical equipment companies manufacture standardized products such as scalpels, forceps, bandages, and gloves. The medical equipment sub-industry also hosts companies which are more technologically driven and expensive, producing equipment such as MRI machines or surgical robots. On the white-collar side of things, we have the managed healthcare industry, which provides health insurance policies to consumers. A key factor within the insurance industry is Medicaid, as spending in this category represents $1 of every $6 spent on healthcare in the U.S., as reported by the Kaiser Family Foundation, or KFF. Because individuals qualify for Medicaid based on income, this industry is countercyclical, meaning they do well in economic downturns. If unemployment rates rise, people make less money, and more consumers become eligible for Medicaid. There are 5 managed healthcare companies which have significant market shares in the Medicaid industry, with United Health Group Inc. leading them. We'll talk about them a couple more times today. The last industry we'll be discussing today in this sector are healthcare facilities. These healthcare companies operate hospitals, clinics, labs, psychiatric facilities, and nursing homes. These facilities are often paid for by a conglomerate of private investors and federal funding, mainly through grants. Now that we've discussed all the healthcare sub-industries, let's take a look at how they perform in recessions. It all starts with health insurance, or managed healthcare companies, and they're the reason that healthcare as a whole is historically considered to be recession-proof. This is because patients are less price sensitive when health insurance pays for a large portion of the expenses. To determine how health insurance companies perform in a recession, we will reference a study published by the National Library of Medicine, which looks at public insurance coverage for children in Alabama during the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009, link in the description prescription. Examining the impact of the Great Recession on public health insurance enrollment in Alabama, we can see that a 1% increase in a county's unemployment rate was associated with a 4.3% increase in Medicaid enrollment and an overall increase in public health insurance enrollment of 3.7. Furthermore, each percentage point increase in unemployment accounted for a 6.2% increase in total public health insurance expenditures on children, with Medicaid spending rising by 7.5%. Since the last Great Recession, we have seen large changes in the health insurance industry due to the Affordable Care Act. As the individual marketplace opened up, health insurance companies received large influxes of enrollment and medical claims beat out projection. Furthermore, with the increased popularity in high-deductible health plans, or HDHPs, enrollees are now more cost-sensitive as they pay lower monthly premiums to the insurance company, but have a larger burden in regard to annual healthcare expenses as their deductible is higher. On the other hand, the newfound popularity of these health plans reduces the buffer which protects healthcare from a recession. This occurs as a result of consumers having high deductibles and choosing to avoid seeking out healthcare as it may not be necessary. If you'd like to see the benefits of enrolling in an HDHP or HSA health savings account, please like the video. Target to hit 15. HSAs are interesting investment tools as you can achieve a triple tax benefit. Well, in a recessionary period, as times are tough and disposable income continues to increase, private insurance companies may be negatively affected, and healthcare facilities are similarly vulnerable. Although there are many types of facilities to look at, we're just going to look at hospitals, and you can translate the theories to the other types of business. For both private hospitals and physician services, private payment rates exceed Medicare rates by about double on average. As discussed, more people needing to enroll in Medicaid as a result of reduced income or losing their employer-sponsored coverage means healthcare facilities will lose out on large streams of revenue in the billing cycle. This is even further magnified as Medicare margins are negative overall unless the facility is running more efficiently than average. Furthermore, as hospitals invest in building projects and large capital expenditures, it adds another stressor to the balance sheet as interest rates increase. Even the inflation rate of healthcare is on a downtrend currently, sitting at 3.3%, and I would say the margins for healthcare facilities are currently in trouble as they will continue to decrease if the economy worsens. In regard to the medical equipment industry, they are also exposed to recessions as they are somewhat dependent on the healthcare facilities. Looking at the effect of the recent pandemic on this industry, volumes of many medical procedures have yet to return to pre-pandemic levels, and with nursing shortages persisting, prospects for an above-average trend recovery have diminished. Moreover, medical device companies typically have year-over-year price depreciation, with providers facing high labor inflation resulting in an increased employee turnover. Profit margins could be at risk. This is expressed by vacancy rates that are double what they were a year ago. Less money coming in means less money to buy medical equipment, and it just so happens that the healthcare facilities have a lower elective demand currently. As we have previously discussed, it appears that the healthcare sector as a whole may have less recession-proof options than it has in the past. With that being said, drug companies may be your saving grace. Now, it's important to differentiate between pharmaceutical companies with large capitalizations and strong balance sheets versus the much more speculative biotech companies which generally begin trading on the OTC market and have shorter pipelines of established products. Industry-leading pharmaceutical companies have extensive pipelines of drugs which often produce high free cash flows, allowing them to be less sensitive to rising interest rates. Furthermore, demand for medicine is relatively inelastic as people need their drug. This is exemplified by the projected returns of the New York Stock Exchange ARCA Pharmaceuticals Index, DRG, which represents a diversified cross-section of highly capitalized companies involved in various phases of the development, production, and marketing of pharmaceuticals. Relative to SPY, the DRG index has returned 8% more over a one-year period. Now, generally, I would advise staying away from the biotech companies in the recessionary period, as many of their products may still be in clinical trials and have yet to receive FDA approvals, which make them incredibly dependent on capital markets. With slow economic growth, coupled with rising interest rates, borrowing cash becomes more expensive and financing becomes much more difficult to obtain. Adding the NYSE ARCA Biotechnology Index, BTK, to our relative one-year comparison, we can see returns consistent with what we've discussed as biotech returned 15% less than the Spider S&P 500. Looking at these indexes are great because it allows us to see how specific industries are performing, but I know that you guys want stuff you can invest in. With the addition of XLV, the Healthcare Select Sector Spider Spider ETF, we can see they track the pharmaceuticals index quite nicely, with the added benefit of less volatility due to diversification. Here are the top 10 holdings, which explain why they tracked pharma so closely, as 5 of the top 6 companies belong to the pharmaceutical industry, accounting for 29.38% of the ETF. United Health Group, coming in at 10.27%, is the cherry on top, as managed healthcare companies are another defensive industry, well structured to deal with economic hurdles, reducing drawdown. With everything we have talked about, it's definitely safe to say, in my opinion, that insurance providers and pharmaceuticals are the best bet for you, as shown by the 1-year industry summary from stockcharts.com. They are currently sorted by scooter ranking, which we discussed in my last sector deep dive on consumer staples. Check that out if you haven't seen it yet. The scooter ranking is essentially a relative metric which ranks a group of stocks from 0 to 99, wherein a company which holds a 99 technically has the greatest momentum relative to the group they're being compared in. Here are the managed healthcare companies with a scooter ranking above 50. There are many candidates such as Alignment Healthcare who have not done so well over the past year but have the strongest relative momentum currently. Furthermore, we'll address United Health Group again with a scooter ranking of 77.8 but a positive 23.85% change this past year. Which of these companies are best to target? Higher scooter rankings with negative 1-year returns, or a company which has performed well over the past year and still has momentum decline? This is when the second round of your due diligence comes in, as it's important to find answers to why the price has moved the way it has before investing in the company. Jumping to the pharmaceuticals industry. This list has way more companies. I'm just going to put a link in the description below and you can browse through them at your own leisure. If you're just looking for single companies to invest in, I think this is definitely the best way to go, as you can easily compare them to their competitors, but never forget the importance of diversification, especially in uncertain markets. I do believe XLV is currently a good ETF to be diversified into, as they have been able to stay fairly consistent over the past 6 months and presently host a PE ratio of just 5.87, which is much better than SPY's at 21.28, naturally due to the technology sector. Please throw me a like and subscribe to the channel if you aren't already. Let me know in the comments down below if you liked this video a little more, where I threw up more possible companies that you guys could investigate if you wanted to. As always, I'm Patrick Zimmerman. Thank you for your time and have a nice day.